the last game and going into the Saints versus Fremantle, where pretty much all footy hopes had been done and dusted the week. It was a good week of football, high attendance, a draw, lots of stuff happening and big blowouts, and they finished with the two most irrelevant teams in football.
Yeah. The most
Joking, I'm
boring
joking.
coach in football, and we got one of the most boring matches again. But they won, playing
And
it. So.
great for Supercoach players that have defenders in their team because Luke Ryan, 171 Supercoach, Brendan Cox, 154, and Hayden Young, 137. Hey, I was pretty much right on when I said 450 Supercoach for 3. What a guess. And Jordan Clark as well, 100. So you add that in, 550 odd
went
Supercoach
92,
points.
Chapman went 90, Wilson went 83.
Oh, all of them.
Yeah, they
Was it Darcy's the only one?
Yeah,
Darcy's the only anomaly.
Yeah, but all seven defenders went just absolutely crazy.
Oh my God.
They just kept doing the same thing.
Watch.
Just so boring.
So for those playing at home, if you didn't watch the game, it was literally dirty ball out from some Kilda. Their forwards couldn't compete, intercept mark, and then because ball movement or trying to create space or trying to threat your forward line isn't a thing anymore, they just kept continually just bombing the ball into the 50, like over and over and over again, thinking that like it was insanity, like just thinking that would change the game, but it didn't, and so they lost, and they don't deserve.
They're like, hey, Max King's down there. Yeah, Max King's down there. They just keep repeating. So definitely interesting. That's where I kind of consider keeping in a Lockie Jones, but that's just me. Brayshaw had a horrible disposal efficiency. Chris had 50% efficiency, so he had a huge 114 DT, but a lovely little 70 for Supercoach. So those that started that point of difference were probably a little bit upset. Same as those going on the Brody train for a breakout. Still only 68% time on ground, and unfortunately a 74. So that was the warning that you should have heard if that was it. And the biggest warning of all was Nat 5 playing full forward and forward that we were kind of expecting to happen. And Fremantle's soft run and high ownership, and that's kind of what's selling you. And you didn't have Chris selling you on Z-Ball like I did, then shame on you because he hurt a lot of people. And I mean,
my voice
a
not
lot.
loud enough.
And what was he on, like 7 at halftime, and he
Yeah, it was
scraped together a 26. Even had a shot on goal, I think, and then sprayed it. Just absolutely butchered.
And that's, but it'd be interesting to more see how it goes like from this week. But the whole game style this week by Fremantle, they had 136 marks. Like, well, Cox had like 20. Like Cox had 20 at 3/4 time. So, like, do you guys remember the game like 15 years ago where the Bowden boys just absolutely waxed and they just sat there, the Richmond, and just kicked back and forward all day? That's what this was for pretty well 3/4. Fremantle just sat there and played chip around in the back line, gave their forwards absolutely no chance. So that's why Five finally scored 26, because the ball didn't go down there. Even the midfielders, like, it was just not, like, Steele's only gone 90, Brayshaw's gone 70. Well, terrible, like, fantasy to Supercoach turnaround there for Brayshaw. And I don't know how many clangers he had. You might have that
Still
there, Chris.
simile as well.
But it was just a game for
Brayshaw
Fremantle
was
to play.
by Bytel.
Yeah, but Fremantle just playing keepings off, and that, so it brought no other players into the game.
Interesting. Philippou is someone I do want to touch on, and now he's 166,000 or something like that off the top of my head. And the reason I want to speak to him is that he had a 76 Supercoach to a 54 DT, right? Had only 16 disposals, which is still not bad for a rookie kind of playing up the field a little bit. 1 goal, so it wasn't like his score was completely skewed by these scores. 1 free 4, 3 marks, but here's the important part: 3 marks, but 8 contested possessions. So this is someone who can win a ball. If it's in his vicinity, if it's in his area, he is still able to win that contested possession, which I think is a big tick for me. And we know as a junior, etc., that he is a huge winner of the footy, and he was also a late developer. So he was drafted, I think, one of the youngest drafted players. So we're seeing possibly a slightly later development to improve that. Chris, what are your thoughts on Philippou?
Yeah, absolutely loved his game. I thought he was the absolute highlight of this game. Every time he touched the ball, particularly his hands, are absolutely elite. Very like one-touch football, very quick handball, always hits the target. Reminded me of Bont, and I don't want to like say he's like that good, but he was really quick with his hands. Big presence, big body. He can take a mark as well. He flew for a few. He was unfortunately obviously overshadowed by the fact that they had all these guys around him, well, probably bigger than him and stronger, etc. But I was super, super, super impressed by him. I wouldn't I wouldn't be begrudging if you had him on field and if you need to field him for however long, because I think that he's got some big scores in him. The only thing is the role, obviously, with him being very deep forward. If he gets the role where and they start getting a couple back, especially forwards, or they play some more forwards that he doesn't have to be so deep, he could get up around that half forward or pushing into the midfield. He's going to explode as a points guy. Like I think that he would. He's arguably got the biggest scope of all the rookies this year in terms of his development. So, yeah, not bad at all. I really enjoyed that game.
I think I got him pick 4 in keeper league, so definitely high raps on him. I know AFL draft expert pretty much I think put him the highest scope behind Ashcroft. I think because of the
Yep.
young nature and the high development, so the upside on him was huge. But there was that little bit of unknown where a lot of other clubs went with okay known commodities because they're a little bit older, whereas Philippou actually had a huge upside because of his youth and
Yep.
showed quite a lot. So I think I'm definitely interested in him. Hunter Clark, I think, was a bit disappointing. Had quite a decent amount of CBAs for a guy in defence that you would hope for. Only
Yeah, he had
54 Supercoach though, so
40%. So I,
yeah.
which is
And
exactly what he had in the last preseason game. So yeah,
but
no
again,
change.
good enough role, but just didn't really translate that and actually convert it across. And Marshall as well, I believe he might have even copped a knock. Was it a shoulder knock or something or other in quarter 3 or 4? He's got a little band-aid next to his name. I did hear someone say that he did cop a shoulder knock late in quarter 4. So there you go. So I guess we'll wait and see. Hopefully there's nothing too much in it for that, but that'd throw
He
another
was
spanner in the
okay. He
works,
just, I
wouldn't it?
mean, he had six clangers in his price, so including three free kicks against. So obviously that's going to limit his score somewhat. But he generally lost the contest to Darcy, unfortunately. So he had
Yeah.
17 hit outs for
Darcy's
the
a
day.
monster.
Yeah, if you're only going to have 17 hit outs, generally speaking, Marshall also is one that gets around the ground and gets some points that way. But because they were just getting so dominated aerially, he tried to provide contests around the ground. They just never had a chance. So yeah, I look 80. Everyone has him. I don't. Whatever. I'm not going to trade him out. That's and
You
the other
you
one.
From
don't.
So yeah, you're right, mate.
Fremantle,
You don't
I was
have
going to
him?
say
Did you say you
Fremantle,
don't?
No,
but
I
from a
said
cheaper
everyone
point of
has him.
view. Yeah,
I,
that's fine. Liam Henry with 83, 21 touches, playing that kind of half forward wing role that we've talked about, now that they've lost Akers and Tucker and that. So around that 200,000 mark, yeah, we're kind of interested to see how he would go. There was question marks a bit about his fitness, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he gets on the home deck. Does play North Melbourne this week, so that'll be kind of interesting to watch to see if he continues his scoring.
yeah.
Yeah, I think
Um.
he'll impress probably this week. The other thing as well, him 8 contested possessions and 21 disposals, which I think is also probably worth noting. Now, again, with the wing, maybe more of the ball just went through his wing this week, but at 200,000, it's not the worst shake in the world, Chris.
So Stocker actually again played, but backed up his last preseason performance with a 74. Had 20 disposals and 9 marks, so they were looking to him to transition the ball out of defense. Um. So what? Not a bad score. Again, one you can wait or you can go this week. I mean, I think he's one of the options if you've already got McKenna and you want to go Jones out. He's probably the best option at the moment. So one to look at. Jack Bytel.
Ooh, him or Cole? Him or Cole?
I think they're
Cole's
both pretty good. Like,
Cole's better job
Yep.
security, but I think Stocker's probably slightly better scoring.
But then
yeah,
also one gets you 45,000 and the other one nets you what, nothing?
Yeah,
yeah. I
so
think
that probably
Stocker's what
makes
two
Cole.
fourteen
So I
k or something
already
like
said
that.
Cole's
Yeah.
got the better job security, so I'd rather take Cole.
I mean, if West
Okay,
Coast are
take
going
the
to
money and
continue to
run.
just wax the ball in the background
Yeah,
in the back line, then sure, whatever.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I don't mind Stocker. I mean, you might already have Cole as well, so there's also that.
Mm.
Jack
There's something
Bytel.
very sexual in the way that you say wax, Chris, and you've said it a few times
Mm,
tonight.
I
If
love
they just
wax.
keep waxing off the ball and
Wax
this, that, and
on.
the other, I was like,
Wax
ooh, I'm
off.
listening. I like the
um,
wax off better.
so yeah, Bytel obviously was in a tagging role, so therefore had quite a bit of CBAs. He actually had 13 CBAs for the game, and what that correlates into stat wise. He was the second midfielder there, 65% CBAs, which is obviously unusual for a rookie to get that much time, but obviously with a tagging role, that's what was happening there. So look, someone you can monitor, but obviously what we think is Windhager comes back and then his role's completely done and dusted. So I wouldn't read too much into that. Wanganeen Malira, a second game in a row where his super coach was to DT ratio was significantly lower. So he did have the majority of kickouts with 5 kickouts. Sinclair got 4, but he only went at 56% disposal efficiency. So for someone who's supposed to be a super awesome kick, he also had a chance to kick a goal and completely missed it. I think that's one that you can go, okay, well, I've given it a run. Maybe I flip that to Warple next week or this week, depending on what you want to do.
Yeah,
But
because
I
he had
think
17,
that
17
experiment might be
kicks.
over.
So he
Yeah.
loves to kick the ball, but yeah, if he's going to keep flipping, like that game he had should have been 90. Supercoach.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, it would be if he
Yeah.
had 80% disposal efficiency, like he should
That's
have,
right.
but
Yeah.
he might not be ready. Obviously,
I
again,
think it's just a one-off
he's the one
rarity.
kicking. Yeah, he's kicking the one down to Frio's, the defensive line that were
Yeah,
stacked
exactly.
back there, intercepting everything. So, outside of that, obviously, so what do we read into these defenders, guys? Anything taken out of the Frio defenders, or we just kind of say
How
The
much
the
you
only
dislike Luke Ryan? Is that
the only problem, like Luke Ryan, North Melbourne this week, he could go similar. He could cause us headaches the following week because if he goes 170, say anything over 150, and that it's going to be hard to ignore. But we know this is what Luke Ryan does. Like he is the one defender that consistently goes over 140, but then he throws in 50s and 60s. He misses large amounts of footy, and it's like I think he's the perfect guy. I love having in like a draft because I can sit there and throw the VC on him or something random like that. And we know he could just go berserk. But for classic, where we've got a limited amount of traits, just can't do it to myself.
I think
Yeah.
it's easy to pass on him. If he goes 170, 150, he's not averaging you 160 for the whole year.
No,
The only
that's
way
right.
you would get on him is to possibly make a little bit of cash if you wanted some short-term gain and you had something horribly, horribly wrong.
and he's not
But he's
even
not
well
averaging that for the
priced.
season.
No,
No, but
that's the
that's what I
problem.
mean. So as in
That's
on the end of it, you go, okay, so he's not even yeah, when you take those 2 scores out of it and you go, okay, at the end of the year, I think Luke Ryan will average you, 103 or 105 or best case scenario, you go, oh, yeah,
Mm.
he's going 110. It's like, okay, well, you take out those 2 scores from his
Yeah.
average, and what do you think you'll get for the rest of the year? Oh, probably 100 or less.
yeah,
So
and he'll
either
score.
way, if he goes big these 2 weeks, yeah, no, I'm like, it's an easy pass
He'll have
'cause
another couple
those
of games
You've missed
too,
it
which are
already.
this big.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
those anomalies, you take
Yeah.
those anomalies out
Yeah,
and
of
you go,
course.
okay, so it's like Dacos. I'm like, I like Dacos, but he's already got that 130 in his average now. So is he averaging you 130? No, you've just trying to go on recency biased after one of his good games, and then you're gonna get upset and shit the bed when he
Yeah.
drops out some of his
But at
poor
least
games
with
or gets tagged.
Dacos, we know like Ryan's got so much history with this. Like this is just every year with Ryan. Like you go through his history, and there's some seasons where first game of the year he goes 150. Like there's no defender in the whole competition that has the. We talk about Stewart's ceiling. Ryan's got the best ceiling of any defender in there, but I can't trust him to play more than 15 games, and I can't trust him to throw in 50s.
Just
Yeah.
trying to think of another defender. Yeah, so I think and another team's not linking 550 points to defenders or
Well,
more,
that's
which
right
is
as
pretty much
well.
what happened here. So,
Oh,
yeah,
it's until this week
it's
when they
kind
play
of
North Melbourne, and then the following week they play West Coast. And he probably is
Yeah.
going 3 weeks of 150, but then he'll fall off the absolute world
that's
from
fine,
then.
and I'll let
Yeah.
other people
Yeah,
think he's the best
exactly.
thing. Like
See,
Rampy, people jumping on
Hayden Young's
recency.
more interesting for that because we know
Yeah, and that's why I think
yeah.
Horn Francis and those kind of guys are people with the role and the potential and a high score that makes me think. And it's kind of like years gone by with the Marshalls and a few others and the Rampies in their year where I've kind of ignored them, going, oh yeah, okay, but I'm just not quite sold. And then they keep on keeping on, like Aaron Hall, right? The Horn Francis
Mhm.
one is very much like one of those scenarios where if you don't jump on and he just keeps on keeping on and ends up as one of those 100 sort of forwards, that's the one that'll hurt you, not a Rampy type or a Ryan type who throws the anomaly out there when the whole team does well in defense. They're the ones you want to avoid. You want to kind of look at, okay, here's their role, here's the scoring, is there room for their breakout? And then you want to kind of jump on before some of the others to improve your ranking. Otherwise, you pick up Sicily at 600K like I did last year, and you kind of just wait until it's too late, and everyone else that's already ahead of you in rankings has already got that player, and then you just stay close enough to them, but always behind, which is where Chris likes to stay to me.
Look,
looking at my behind.
I kind of think that this is a fallacy. Like, I wouldn't be jumping on any of these guys, including Hayden Young, Brennan Cox. And there's a couple of reasons for that, but the main thing is all of the research that I did in the preseason basically says to me that they all score well. But they all score pretty well, but none of them are really breakout candidates. I think the best averaging was Luke Ryan last year at 94, and then everyone else basically went between 80 and and that doesn't seem to. This is just another game where they all went well, but they all went well together. I
Yeah.
think that has to change because they scored 52 points from this style of gameplay, which is chip the ball around, long down the line, long to the contest inside the 50. That's not how you win games of football. They need to be more precise with their ball movement. They need to take more risks. They need to go into the corridor. None of that was happening. So if they're going to continue to play this brand of football, they will lose every single game this year. That's just because
Oh,
teams are better than that style of football now. They counter attack better and they are efficient when they go inside 50 when they're moving the ball from half back. If you're just continually going from a contested forward line back and then back into that contested forward line, it's not going to work. So I can't see this is probably more the anomaly than it is the norm. I think that I see them regressing back towards that 90 average. So yeah, I don't really like it.
they had 188 disposals between those 7
Mm.
defenders.
That's
unheard of.
188 disposals
That
in a
was nearly
defensive
what
line, and that's
that was nearly what the whole Brisbane team had on the weekend. I think Brisbane had like 250 or something.
It's
Oh,
not
right,
gonna be
okay, I thought you were
sustainable.
taking the piss.
No, actually true.
Right, yeah, no, not
Like, it's
sustainable, not
genuinely
sustainable
true.
at all.
And another
Yeah, so
thing,
Nat 5,
just quickly before we move on from those defenders, kick-ins: Luke Ryan 2, Brendan Cox 1, Hayden Young 2, Nathan Wilson 2. There is not a general down there anymore. So no more
Mhm.
Luke Ryan, no Hayden
yep,
Young on kickouts. It's just whoever's there.
Yep.
that's good to know, and only 7 behinds as well, so probably not a huge sample size, but enough to show that it's quite scattered.
Yeah,
Nat 5, if you're considering holding or trading, I actually don't mind even holding him possibly for this week, depending on the issues you have in your team, obviously, but if you have some other moves you need to make,
probably goes
Fremantle, I
120
think
this
playing
week.
North.
He probably
Well,
does.
that's what I
North
mean. They're
Melbourne
playing
'cause
North Melbourne at
at
home,
home.
yeah? Playing North at
Yeah.
home. And who do they have? They have Griffin Logue as their main. So then you go, okay, well, who's Fife going to be on then? So either Logue or someone worse. So I think, if anything, fix the other stuff you have first. Fife, I think you'll at least get a semi-reasonable score over him this week, and then you can look to pivot. So I
Well,
don't
as
think
long
he's the
as
biggest
yeah,
issue in your side.
he's the issue. He only scored that much because of Frio's ball movement. So if they fix that,
Mm,
then Fife gets actual one-on-one contest forward of the footy. Then
exactly.
they're fantastic. But that wasn't happening.
Mhm.
He was literally, dude. He was spent throwing himself at contest after contest after contest, and they just couldn't win anything. Like it was really, really poor from Frio. And so they need to fix that. If they do fix it, he's an opportunity. He's going to have some opportunities. But we did know, obviously, his scores were going to be like this because of his role. So if you did pick him, that's on you.
Any final thoughts? Any final people that we need to touch on?
I think we're done. Finally.
I think we are done. This is you heard it here first. Supercoach Insider, SC Insider 100, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. And if you've just started the Pirates of the Caribbean series, you are now 1 out of 3 done, and that is us for today. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you next time. Check out our team segments as well, which I'm definitely not doing tonight now. So we'll catch you later, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.